What? Yeah. No, I'm behaving myself. No, I'm not playing in abandoned buildings. What? Again? Now, I suppose you had those people follow me again. Fine. Hey, this is Jimmy Farrow from Monty and the Pharaoh, and I want to thank all our subscribers. We have now passed 14,000 on our YouTube channel. But I want to ask our subscribers to take the next step for us and become a full-fledged member of Monty and the Pharaoh. Yeah, that's right, folks. There's 3 different levels to choose from. There's free shirts. There's free autographs. Just check it out and become a member of Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monty and the Pharaoh. Later.
All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monty the Pharaoh, only seen out of indie music TV, straight out of Ronkonkoma, Long Island. I'm back.
Yeah, man.
I don't know how back I am. I'll do the best I can.
You're
but
back,
we had a major help here as we've got the great Sean Oliver as a special guest today. So as I'll be quiet most of the show, Sean and the Pharaoh will have it. But suspension for the channel sucks.
Yeah, does.
3 months. Well, that's
blows.
Sean, why he doesn't get suspended with all the
how
shit
come
he does on his channel.
Wait a minute. How come he doesn't? Yeah.
3
picking
times
on
now.
us again.
3
Yeah,
times.
they like picking on us.
But on some important news, before
Whatever.
we get to Mr. Oliver, another school shooting, Pharaoh.
Oh, God, here we go again. After a warning on a school intercom, a gunman with an AR-15 style rifle killed a teacher and a student while others jumped from windows. As a 19-year-old gunman walked through the St. Louis high school hallways with an AR-15 style rifle and over 600 rounds of ammunition, frightened students and teachers locked classroom doors and huddled in corners. Some heard gunshots, and someone trying to open the doors, they recall. They could hear that. The attack Monday at Central Visual and Performing Arts High School, at least the 67th shooting on U.S. school grounds this year, would leave 2 dead. Student Alexandria Bell, 15 years old, and teacher Jean Coxa, 61. Other students would be injured. A teacher tried and died trying to save students from a school shooter who obviously, successfully killed somebody right before their Sweet 16. After a gun battle with officers, yet another American school shooter also would be dead, this time a recent graduate identified as Orlando Harris, who arrived at the campus with extensive arsenal and a handwritten note. And this is in St. Louis. Like so many stories of carnage at places meant for learning and friendship, the school day had begun just like any other. But then the assistant principal's voice came over the intercom with a signal familiar to children who live with this kind of threat. Miles Davis is in the building. It was a signal only heard during active shooter drills. Now people were jumping from windows. Well, once again, I got to say, I guess this is the reason why we should not close psych centers, because you cannot, obviously, either A, families are not paying attention to their children and not reading the warning signs that your children or child is about to go absolutely psycho, or perhaps maybe the thought of just handing somebody a pill and telling themselves to rehab at home may not be working. So, in the past, at least in my generation, if you were even slightly suspected of having something wrong with you, you were probably going to get screened and possibly sent to a place like South Oaks or Sagamore or wherever it was. You know, they made sure that they got on top of that before you fully developed into a Dylan Klebold or an Eric Harris. This world has become completely insane, and apparently it doesn't matter who's in charge. whether it's the last regime or the regime before, or whoever's in charge, people are getting their guns and they're just shooting everybody. So much for political persuasions. It's a bunch of yada yada, and we all want to see something to change it, obviously, but not looking good right now.
Well, you keep saying it. We need those psych facilities,
Yep.
and it's not. But if it doesn't get any worse, the world's dirtiest man dies in Iran at 94 after a few months after they force him to take a bath.
He died from a bath?
From a bath.
Wait a minute. Oi. All right, well, let's find out a little bit of something about this world's dirtiest man. Did he get any trademark for this? Did he make any money off of this?
Don't know.
He should have. He didn't take a shower for more than half a century. Could you imagine? And has died. Wait a minute. He lived till he was 94. Apparently, soap is extremely overrated. Apparently.
Sounds like it.
So is hair conditioner probably too. Aren't you glad you used Dial? You might not want to. Living to 94. He was covered in soot. His name was Haji. He covered in soot and living in a cinder block shack. He had not bathed with water or soap for more than 60 years, and the villagers said the reason for this was he experienced emotional setbacks in his youth. What, did somebody put the hose on him when he was a kid? It's just like, I don't get that part, but okay. That must have been some setback for him to not touch water or soap.
Two things that I have problems with, stinky people and people with bad teeth.
Wow, you wouldn't have liked Haji very much, would you?
Haji's not my friend. If you didn't know it, that is to the right of the show is Mr. Jimmy Farrow. Jimmy,
Hello.
along with his partner, Part Griggs, make up the band Wisteria Hall, whose channel we are loaning out for the next 3 months because we get suspended and guys like Sean Oliver just keep cruising along, making money, and we get effed over.
Yeah, we do.
Because we talk politics, and I guess you can't talk politics. You can't make any kind of statements.
Why did you just say that word?
Well, politics.
Shame on you.
Wisteria Hall's music can be found on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, and Reverb Nation. Your partner's name is
Buttman.
Monty Nefaro could also be seen on YouTube,
Yeah,
Facebook Live.
sometimes.
No, well, not anymore. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Anchor, Twitch TV, Channel 115 in New York on Tuesdays at 9:30 and 11:30, and Channel 20 at Tuesday at 1 a.m.
That's where you'll find us.
I want to thank all the fans who's given me my prayers. I'm glad to be back. It's going to be a little bit of a long haul. Doctors are going to tell me that it's going to take me about 4 or 5 months until I feel like I feel normal. Lost a little blood during the surgery, got anemia, so if you hear me taking deep breath, it's not because the heart isn't working, it's because my body can't get enough oxygen to the rest of my body while I'm blowing out big bags of air.
Big bags of air.
We'll be right back with, I got to tell you,
This is
I
awesome.
got to thank this guy.
This is awesome.
He is the OG.
He is.
He is an icon.
To me, he is,
and
absolutely.
And you know, and
I
to
love
be
him.
honest,
I love his stuff.
He's made some great. I want to use the right words, but he's changed the landscape of professional wrestling.
He sure has.
We'll be right back with the great Sean Oliver.
See you in a sec.
You want to star in your own success? Call QuickCast. www.quickcast.com. 866-7-CAST-NOW. That's 866-7-CAST-NOW. QuickCast.
Star in your own success.
Do you treat your dog as part of the family? Well, so do we. So why not celebrate your pup's birthday with the ultimate party box? Check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Party Pup Info, and let us make your pup's party or any celebration perfection.
Hi, it's Josh from Under the Table Hot Sauce. I'm here with my friend, the star of the show, Jimmy Farrow.
Yeah, what's up, JB?
Nah, nothing.
It's been a hot summer, and for all your barbecue needs, you can go to underthetablehotsauce.com. 13 unique flavors to choose from, created and bottled in a Long Island kitchen. Underthetablehotsauce.com. Let's go chow, JB.
Let's do it.
All the flavor, twice the burn. Okay.
All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast. Monty Nefaro, only seen here out of Indie Music TV, straight out of Ronkonkoma, Long Island, where we're welcoming the great Sean Oliver. Sean, thank you for joining us, my friend.
Yeah.
Here I am. Listen, you should know that I am here for one reason. I demand now only to go on shows where a host has returned from heart surgery, because the incessant banter of two hosts, it gets confusing sometimes in my head. So if we can kind of take one out with a serious surgery, I find the interview just goes easier.
Well, I appreciate that, Sean, and I'm sure my family appreciates it as my wife is crying in her bed right now as you've wished death upon me. But thank you. Thank you so much.
Not death.
Oh.
Life-saving surgery, which you had.
Thank you, sir. So, Sean, on a serious note, I want to applaud you and your partner, Kevin Nash. Obviously I'm home from surgery. Mostly everybody knows that Kevin lost his son, unfortunately, which no parent has to go through. But shockingly enough to me, finding out that you guys put on a show, and I got to tell you how emotional for me personally, listening to that show as I'm doing my laps around my backyard, listening to you and Kevin discuss that situation. And I can clearly make this statement that Kevin Nash is 5 times the man I am, because I never could ever do a show after something like that. And you're 5 times the man I am, because being a host and being able to keep it as light as you did, but as serious as you did, all I can say is I'm in awe of you, sir, and in awe of Kevin. Any remarks?
Well, thank you, first of all. But all right. So it was like a 2-day process. I knew that Tristan was taken to the hospital. I knew that it wasn't going well. And then I knew he passed. So as a producer of content, as you know firsthand, you're fragmented. The responsibility of a show, and then the responsibility of being a decent human being. And I've always said, I said it in one of my books, and I've told people, generally the things that make you a good content producer don't make you a good human being, and vice versa. Most good people would not be successful content producers. They seem to function at odds at times. So here comes this news. I'm crushed, knowing Tristan, knowing Kevin, but also carrying a weight that Kevin has a lot to deal with, and I'm going to need to put a plan in place. I'm going to have to prepare for something. So there was that part of me, that balance of grieving and just disbelief and the pain, and thinking about, my friend Kevin. But then also, Tristan died at 6 a.m. on a Wednesday, and we shoot Wednesday nights. So I got the guys started on a best of episode, and was also thinking long term. Let's get, I'm thinking in terms of let's get a replacement in. I don't know how much time he's going to need, but let's prepare to have a replacement host. The old Carson thing, right? We'll call Joan Rivers, and she'll come on and host. And about 6 o'clock that night, Kevin texts me, "What's going on? When are we starting?" I said, "You have the night off, and we're going to run a best of show for Monday." And Kevin said, "I have to talk to the world about the death of my son." And I said, "Okay, I'll set it up." And we went on air without any of the normal segments we do, and we were just going to talk about Tristan and the memory of Tristan. The harder show, believe it or not, was the one that's in the can now for Monday. because a week had passed. And you can't just go back to normal. So it was a toe into the waters of normal, the second show. But that was the hardest for me because, we if you've listened to our show or watched our show, we kind of cover the gamut. There's not unlike you guys. There's politics. There's life stories. There's wrestling. There's whatever we want to talk about. So we knew it wasn't going to be entirely a Tristan show, but of course we're 7 days out, and I realized that the show is kind of functioning as a social experiment too, because fans are in real time with us because we were on air the week Tristan passed. So the shock of that, experiencing Kevin, dealing with it, talking about it, then 1 week out. Now we're 1 week out. And after about an hour and a half, when I was going to sign off, I forget what we were talking about, but I guess it was funny. And I said, Kev, you're laughing. And I wanted him to realize that we were a few steps closer to normal. I don't think you ever get to normal if you lose a child, but we were closer to normal than we were a week ago. And that's, I guess, the expectation. That's what we're all going to learn. We'll get closer to normal with each step.
How did you and Kevin come up with the idea for the show? Just curious.
In 2018, I found an old pad with notes on it. Let me go back even further. I had a band called Kayfabe Commentaries back in the day, and Kevin was a frequent guest on a lot of our shoot interviews, and fans always talked about our chemistry together and would share clips about it, and always said, you guys need to do a podcast. You should do a podcast. You should do a podcast. So 2018, we talked about it for the first time. And it's just been, I guess, 4 years of foreplay. And then it was actually Tristan, who's a big podcast fan and had turned his dad onto podcasts. And they would watch, and Tristan would keep saying, I learned this week, by the way, on the show. You could do this, Dad. You could do this. You could talk about this. You could talk about stuff, and you can be entertaining. You could do this. So Kevin was like, "Yeah, I talked to Sean about it," and he was like, "Well, we'll call him now. Do it for real." So Kevin called me and had like a listen. If we're ever going to do this, we have to do it now, kind of thing. And I said, "Okay, well, let's put it together, and I'll shop it around, and we'll see where it lands. Go to the highest bidder."
There you go.
And the philosophy behind the show was, to quote Kevin, two guys talking at the bar.
Excellent.
And that's kind of what we wanted it to feel like for listeners, that you could pull up a chair and whatever we were waxing about, you join the conversation. And I think that kind of personally, I listen to other wrestler podcasts.
Okay.
And they're working. I guess being a worker, you're always working. Mm-hmm. And I don't feel that I'm getting the real person. The warts and all stripped down
organic
version of the person.
Right.
So we wanted to make sure that we gave people that. And I think what it did, based on the popularity, was the listeners feel a part of the show. And that's very important. And so we give them access to us on Twitter, and also we read a lot of their comments on air, and we're going to be doing some live stuff soon. So that was kind of the if there's a recipe, that's the magic recipe that if you're listening, you're in the click too.
Were you surprised at the level of success so quickly, or did you expect it? I mean, after all, you and Kevin do have great chemistry, and it does feel organic. I mean, how do you feel about the reaction from the public?
I was confident, but as you guys know, there's so much competition for the viewers' eyes and listeners' ear right now. So there was not just the challenge of putting on an entertaining show. We had to cut through a lot of noise and a lot of other podcasts. I mean, I have probably, I don't know, 30 that I follow and that download. And that's not even the ones I run into when I fall down the YouTube rabbit hole looking at, videos of Loverboy on the road again. Mike Reno's huge. I don't know what happened.
Too funny.
Looks like
He just got chubby instead of lucky.
You gotta look. Check it out. He does the headband still, but it's like he's eating for the weekend and no longer working.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Are we related? That's exactly what I was just thinking.
Pretty
nice. What made you get into podcasts in general? I mean, you're clearly an innovator, and that's something that we both absolutely admire, my partner and myself. What made you get into this whole world in the first place?
Well, it's the Shoot Interview 2.0, isn't it? It's no one's paying for a la carte content anymore. So the Shoot Interview model that we worked for 12, 13 years, whatever it was expensive. Made a lot of money, but it also, it was a full production, a set.
Sean, I don't want to cut you off but is it fair to say that, and from what I heard, you became a millionaire off of this?
No, the company certainly grossed more than $1 million. But it's in the title of my book. I think you're referencing, turning wrestlers' interviews into $1 million, which is literally what the company did. So the company's value was, but there's people working there, and there's expenses and overhead, and the shoots, which I was touching on here, were expensive. They were lit well. They were mic'd. This may sound to anyone not familiar with the Shoot Interview game 20 years ago, this may seem like a basic thing, but lighting, sound, almost any production value at all, wasn't happening always. So it was very important to us. If we were going to do this, it was going to look and feel like a real production. And which was 2007 when we started. So, we're still shooting on tape. Digital video was just coming out. And so eventually we, of course, had to upgrade everything. But in stages, the production was important to us. So it was expensive. What happens? Well, at a certain point, as podcasts start rising in popularity, I have a guy coming in 2 weeks that let's use round numbers. I'm paying him $1,000. The suite's $500. The food's going to be $300. I have a crew that'll be $400. When we're all said and done, it's a $3,000 day. I just hear this guy on Joe Fungul's podcast talking about everything I'm going to ask him about in 2 weeks, ostensibly appearing for free.
There you go.
On this on that podcast.
Right.
How's that model going to continue? How am I going to continue paying when it's being basically given away? And what was happening was it was more of a detriment to the workers because they were devaluing themselves, their stories, the appearances. Yep. So I could be Bart Griggs if you want me to. But,
there you go. Cha-ching.
The lower third, just a Bart Griggs popped up, and then it became Sean Oliver for a minute. I like Bart Griggs better. I always hated my name. So
really?
if you want to go back to Bart Griggs, I'll be him. So that's the long answer to your short question, that it began to morph. The Shoot Interview industry began to morph into the podcast industry. I would have been happy doing none of it, but it was clear that despite whatever else I did, whatever TV series I had optioned, I had novels out, whatever else I was doing, just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. I knew that wrestling was going to come knocking again.
Well, I got to tell you, what you built, like we said, was innovative, and it was real production. And I think at some point you might have to cringe when you see some of those shows out there. And like almost any wrestler will do any show now. I guess if you pay enough, they'll do anything, and it just looks like total dog shit. So
I cringe.
Are you cringing?
Look at him. He's cringing.
It's boy, it's a tough thing. If you're going to ask someone to pay for something, and this was always where I was with the production value aspect of this. And even when a talent came on and laid an egg, I'm like, I can't ask somebody to pay $20 for this. So, talent A, while you're drooling onto your fanny pack / pill holder when I'm trying to ask you a question,
yeah,
I can't ask someone to pay for that, nor would your parole officer want to see this. So I'm going to take a loss today and cut you loose to go on your way, and we can do this another day.
See, that's kind of funny because differently, what we do is we just let it run. Do what you want, say what you want, act what you want, and get us suspended.
Right.
But we're going to show it.
Yeah. We're dumb. Tell us we're dumb.
We always have the video. So, we never cut the cameras. So all of the video lives in the library. But it was just, there were, a very small handful of times it was impossible to cut something together. There were some that I did. I cut together to make a coherent conversation between me and the guest. And then there was, a time I had to send someone on their way. And it just came down to somebody paying money for this. I couldn't do it. It would have been deleterious to our reputation, but also disrespectful to the viewer. Now, somebody viewing something for free, sitting an ad-sponsored program like yours, like our podcast now, if somebody's willing to sit through a bit of a train wreck of an interview, that's fine. There's nothing lost but time. And the viewer can turn it off and move on if they want to. But at the time, it was a la carte programming, $20 a pop for DVD. What was a DVD? What's a DVD? Yeah, right. DVDs used to be these things we played programming on. So, yeah, I guess it was just a matter of principle at the time.
Sean, I want to get a little serious again. One thing I was taken aback about on last Monday's show on Click This, that people were actually attacking Kevin Nash after the loss of his son. Doesn't that in itself want to make you pull out of this bullshit?
If not for the 500-to-1 ratio of people sharing stories about having lost their son and thanking Kevin for having the courage, people who donated to Autism Speaks or one of the other autism charities because Kevin's son was autistic, then yes, Monty, I might have, but the ratio was still, I called it a speed bump. When I would scroll down in either YouTube seems to be a citadel for the soulless. So it was most often on like YouTube, but when I would scroll through Twitter or scroll through YouTube, a series of wonderful complimentary things. Then you hit the speed bump, some anti-vax goofball who's going to use this as a platform for their uneducated opinion.
You can get away with that. You can get away with that on YouTube because if you went the other way, you would have just got us suspended for a fourth time.
What do you mean?
If you would have went on as an you know what? I shouldn't even be saying this right now. If you went on as an anti-vaxxer, you would have got us suspended. It's that quick and that simple.
Oh, I understand.
So
Okay.
being that you're pro-vaccination, and so is most of us, and we get that. But if you're if you have the opinion, Sean Oliver's simple opinion, you have got us suspended. We've been suspended for Missy Hyatt's vaccination thoughts, Greg Valentine thinking Donald Trump won the election.
The last election, right.
And who's Del Wilkes, God rest his soul, who was a very intelligent man, who had his political views, whether you believed in it or not.
He was pro-Republican, and they didn't like it. Yeah, they didn't like it.
Got us suspended for a third time, sorry.
Sean, I got to ask you, you're my favorite interviewer on YouTube, first of all, so again, thank you for coming on, but I got to ask you this question. At what point, is it really the interviewer's responsibility? Should the interviewer be assassinated by whatever forum his show is going under because of a guest's opinion? Is that like a fuzzy? I know it's a tough question, but where's our rights as interviewers? Maybe you can help me with this.
It's funny. In the episode that's going to air this Monday, which would be the 31st of October, Halloween, I went through the YouTube monetization standards because we occasionally have programming that gets demonetized, and our very diligent YouTube guru Steve Kaufman has to go through the appeals process, and he always gets it restated. But we fall into those gaps where we lose some time, and time is money. So I went item by item with Kevin, and I said, let's see how much we have violated here.
Okay.
Let's see, in their words, let's take their advertiser-friendly standards, which is what they call it.
Gotcha.
And let's go through and see which each of these about the most we could admit to being guilty for is language, inappropriate language.
Of course, I got you.
So I guess that's why they were demonetizing some stuff. None of the other things we really hit. Okay. I think I jokingly said we hit all of them and put some examples there, but the heart of a lot of that wasn't. Well, to your point though, what is an interviewer's responsibility? You see, YouTube functions.
I don't know, Sean. It's okay to go, so you raped that girl in 1972 and you threw her off a bridge. That doesn't get you suspended.
Correct.
But you have an opinion about
politics,
whatever.
Or whatever it may be that's controversial.
I mean,
well, I didn't even realize you're educating me on the sensitivity of that. We have touched on politics. We take kind of a common sense approach. I suspect you guys kind of have the same view.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but a perfect example: Kevin Nash is anti-Trump, which is fine. Kevin Nash is also, is it fair to say, anti-religion? Is that fair?
He is not religious, but Kevin's a dichotomy. You know, Kevin will make fun of some of the Trump tards, but
well, he's also taken the time to make fun of religion, like Bill Maher has.
But again, it's somebody's.
But he's also a gun owner.
What's that?
He's a gun owner.
Yeah,
he's a gun owner.
Yeah. But my point is, as long as it fits the agenda of today, you can say whatever you want. So for me, who believes in Jesus Christ, as much as I like Kevin Nash and I respect him, I don't respect his ideology or his anti-religion thoughts or his amusement of it. I just don't find it funny, which is fine. But again, if you don't read the agenda,
it's selective.
It's a problem. And I don't want to get too deep into this. That's the only point I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
If you were to go on and be pro-Trump, you would have a problem on your channel.
Yeah,
it's possible. We haven't run into anything except the occasional demonetization, which we usually get reversed.
Well, it's the reason I asked you, Sean, because basically we've gotten in trouble for our guests' opinions. We're getting suspended over and over again for our guests' opinions. That's not America. It shouldn't be.
Well, when you appeal it, do you say that this is it's a form for expression? We're not advocating.
It's instantaneously. So we get demonetized on certain videos too, and then we appeal it, and then it usually gets accepted. Same type of deal. And then in some reasons, we have a cable show too. the cable show has the exact same information on it, but they
Right.
won't accept that.
Right.
So there's a lot of BS going on. Again, I don't want to get too deep into it, but being the respect that we have for you as being this guy, we just thought it was important that we heard your opinion on this deal.
Very much so.
Well, what I think is happening, and I'm not in any way condoning it or saying that there's justification for it, but political discourse, people disagreeing about politics, has been the cornerstone of programming for decades.
Yep.
From when they first started televising presidential debates in the 60s, up through magazine news style programming in the 70s, like 60
Radio,
Minutes and whatnot.
Bob Grant and such.
Through the
radio.
80s, 90s.
Yep.
You could have Republicans, Democrats, conservatives, liberals debating, bringing up points. What has happened in the last 6 years is there's become a vile permission on the part of some extremists on both sides
Understood. Yep. Yep.
to personally attack,
Right.
belittle, cancel
Sure.
people that they don't agree with. Simply, they've done no personal harm.
Bingo.
They don't agree with my ideology.
Right.
So political discourse has now become personal conflict. And what does that bubble into? It bubbles into January 6th at the Capitol. It bubbles into things like this. So media sources are panicked.
Right.
Whereas at one time, you could have a kooky Missy Hyatt opinion. I don't know what she said on your show, but I know Missy, so I know it was kooky.
Right. You're on.
You could air that
Right.
as a counterpoint and debate it with her. Nowadays, the media says, oh my God, people are going to take to the streets. It's really become the mentality. So I think that they are hypersensitive. I think the media is hypersensitive to that kind of political disagreement because in this day and age, it has spawned so many irresponsible people who don't understand, hey, Chip, people disagree with you. And they have their reasons that they feel are as valid as yours.
Right.
And it doesn't give you the right to go after them as a person. You can attack the position. You can cite your evidence to the contrary. But going after the person, beyond the message to the person, has become acceptable, whether it's somebody trying to shit in Nancy Pelosi's desk because they don't like her policies, or going after someone on the street, as we saw, like random violence. So we're in an insane time now.
We are.
Where it's like a third world nation. It's a classless thing. And I've said this on the air on our show. The left and right have bounced off each other so fervently. They've gone around the world and they sit right next to each other. They behave almost the same. Both sides want people canceled. It's just different groups of people. If you disagree, or you do something that we deem as immoral, we will cancel you. Or on the other side of things, we will go after you. So that thought process, that demented thought process, lives in both extremes who have bounced off each other and now live right next to each other. We're not happy with something, we'll go burn things down. Maybe it's the Capitol because we don't like an election result. Maybe it's a city because we don't like what a jury just said.
Right.
So I'll burn down a city.
Right.
They're acting the same. They've become one dysfunctional party of extremists. They just hate the opposite group.
Well said. Not to switch gears, but we might as well after that. But thank you for that answer, Sean.
And you thought this was going to be a fun, jokey interview, huh?
Right? Where's all the Virgil's penis questions?
Virgil's penis?
Oh, no, the Eric Sim penis questions are coming.
The Eric Sims penis questions?
He has one?
There you go. Kudo, bam.
Oh man!
Hello.
Holy matzo ball.
Matzo
Was
ball.
there ever
Oh,
any?
matzo ball.
I couldn't help myself. Oi. Was there any interview ever where? Okay, I know I'm asking you a rough question, but screw it. I only get to talk to you once, maybe twice, if you decide you like us. Was there any interview where you just couldn't stand the wrestler as a person, and you were like gritting your teeth, like this guy's a douchebag? Did you ever have anybody like that?
No.
Oh, look at you.
I'm. For me, I will shoulder the burden of a difficult talent or a rude talent
Okay.
if when they sit down and the red light goes on, they give the product.
Right.
If they give the designated product, if it's a timeline where did they have details about the events we brought up? Did they bring a dimension to the show? If it's you shoot, were they uncensored? Did they roll with the jokes? If it's a guest booker, did they produce some creative decisions or let us inside their booking mind in the process? Then that's the tacit agreement. Nowhere in my paperwork did I say you have to be nice to me. But I did say you got to deliver a show. And so if the show is there, I was okay with dealing with difficult talent. Where the thing I didn't have patience for was if they sat on camera and took a shit as opposed to put on a show.
Now,
So
at
that I
point,
would have a real problem with.
at that
And it didn't
point,
happen.
right? Because obviously you're paying the talent. They do a giant shit. You're trying to make a DVD. Are you like, well, fuck you, I ain't paying you? Did you ever have that kind of confrontation?
No, the only person I asked for money back was Jake Roberts. He came we were going to do an episode of Breaking Kayfabe, which was a series that dealt with the outside the ring life of the talent. Folks that had interesting things to talk about in their personal lives. So we sat down with Jake, who I booked through DDP. And I told him we were going to talk about his family history and everything on that show. So we sit down, he's paid, we're under the lights, the slate's in, we start the show, and after a couple of questions, he goes, I'm not talking about my family. I said, Jake, I have nothing on these cards about the DDT. I have to tell you this right now. That's what this show is. And he wouldn't do it. And he protested, and we argued a while. I said, Jake, come outside, have a smoke. Let me talk to you about this. I wanted to engender that trust. We'd never worked together before. And I was always pretty quickly able to engender trust. If I have a superpower as an interviewer, it's that, I guess. I don't think of questions that are necessarily innovative or different than anyone else does. But in sitting with somebody for a few minutes, I can put them at ease. And it's not
Good.
It's not a carny thing. I think they sensed that I was truthfully there not to fuck them, but rather to make them the most interesting interview they could be and to have the most interesting product for myself.
There you go.
So I said, Jake, spend some time with me. Come outside. Let me talk to you about this. No. Can't do it. Now, in fairness to Jake, he had just started the program with DDP and was clean. And I think from an emotional standpoint, he was not going to be able to talk about Grizzly Smith and a lot of what went on there. So at a certain point, he was refusing. I said, drop the money and I'll have my guy take you home, take you to the hotel. And he did. Dropped the money on the table, left, and I had him driven home. And that was that. Buff Bagwell famously was not able to perform the interview. I gave him a couple $100 and said, listen, let's get it another time. Don't worry about it. I don't want to put you on camera like this. I think he was just very tired that night.
Well, but listen, Buff's a personal friend. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
You know what? Everybody's got their demons. I judge not. But one thing to You were talking
Well, let me
about
finish.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
So I said, Marcus, and he got very upset that I kept that twice. I had to stop the interview and say, I can't do this with you. He wanted another chance. He said he'd kick out. I said, all right, kick out. Okay, we gave him some time. Second time was no better. And I said, listen, I can't do this. I said, but Marcus, here's some money. Don't worry about it. We'll come. You come back. We'll do it again. I have the script. We'll shoot your timeline another time. So he was emotional, and my guys helped him back out and back to his hotel. And he called me the next morning. He was like, "Hey, I'm sorry, brother. Just a rough night last night, and just want you to please keep that promise to bring me out and get the show." I said, "Man, that money I put in your hand, I consider a deposit. So yeah, I'm going to bring you back." And about 6 months later, I saw he was coming back, and I called him, and I said, let's get that interview. And he said, "Well, sorry, brother." He said, "They're doing a documentary on me, so I don't do that shooting interview shit anymore for no money." And I said, okay. I said, I want to remind you that I'm the guy that sat there while you drooled on my fucking camera for 2 hours and put some money in your hand and said, "Don't worry about it, I'll bring you back." To which he said that in return for that, he would punch my teeth down my throat when he saw me in New Jersey next.
Very nice.
I start
Very nice.
one of my books with this story.
Wow.
It's a favorite.
I might have to retract that statement, sir.
the
I do
fuck?
have to apologize. I would not think that he would have acted like that.
That's fucked up.
But let's go to something you talked about, people trusting you. One of your greatest interviews was the Roddy Piper, Pat Patterson revelation. How taken aback were you from that, or did you know this was coming?
No idea. It didn't even make sense to me when he was telling. I couldn't get my mind around it because I'm like, where were they together? California? He's telling me, and I even reached out afterwards to Dave Meltzer. I wrote him. I said, I got something on tape the other day, and have you ever heard anything about this? And he hadn't. And he said the timeline was a little wonky. Roddy mentions, the Olympic Auditorium in L.A. When he was 15 or 16. Listen, on the set, who am I to argue with him? I wasn't there for it. So I know Connecticut wasn't very happy with it. And at the time, they were promoting Legends House, where Roddy and Pat were together.
Right.
And I know they reached out to Roddy and said, "You better go on some shows and talk about how you were wrong about this." Or maybe they
were you
said, I don't know,
contacted?
because I heard him go on and try to retract it on another show.
Were you contacted by any
seen
chance
this,
by
it's
WWE?
very clear. What's
Sean,
that?
were you contacted by any chance by WWE? Like, take that thing down?
What were they going to say to me? I sat there, and
knows?
he was on an interview show. He told me his story, and that was it.
Right.
I didn't put him on in a lie detector.
Yeah.
My programming would have been terrible if I put wrestlers in lie detectors.
Of course. I'm just wondering if they had called you and given you some shit about it, like, take that down.
No, never called me.
You ever speak to Vince McMahon in person?
What's that?
Ever speak to Vince McMahon? Do you ever?
No, I'm still waiting for the interview. He'd get a great interview out of me.
There you go.
I wouldn't skewer him. I wouldn't even want to talk about the stuff that people are going to. I don't really care whether Mel Phillips was licking anyone's toes in the 80s. I would want to talk to him about the rise in 84.
The rise of Mel Phillips.
No doubt there was a rise in Mel Phillips.
I'm sorry.
But I would want to talk about the rise of the company.
Yeah.
And just how that all came together, the Cyndi Lauper and Hogan and the merchandising and buying out the cable the smaller stations and going national. I could spend 5 hours talking to him about 1983, 4, and 5 in WWE. So Vince, when you call, that's what we're going to cover.
There you go.
Right, don't worry about it. I don't care about $12 million checks, whatever's going on over there. I don't care.
Toe licking. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
So what do you think, big guy? Should we take a break, or do you want to keep going?
Just keep going.
We'll just
go
keep going
to the
then.
end.
I just want to ask you while I got you, our personal favorite interview, we got to interview Bob Backlund. Do you have a favorite interview? Is there anything that, makes your all warm and fuzzy in your tum-tum, as has been said?
The Roddy one that you mentioned, I have a soft spot for because I was such a Roddy Piper mark as a kid. I valued the workers that were captivating and charismatic on the microphone. I don't care that Roddy had a 4-move set. That it wasn't important to me. And guess what? It wasn't important to all the arenas he was selling out and the pay-per-views, including the first WrestleMania, which put WWE on the map as far as that format went, the periodic pay-per-view. So the Piper interview was special for me just because I was a fan, and I could have conducted that entire thing without notes, just remembering the time that he had in WWE. So I thought that was a fabulous interview, not just because I'm such a mark for him, but because I thought it ended up being a great product too. A lot of the ones I like, guys, were not the best sellers. They weren't the ones that are all over YouTube now. Mm-hmm. The Tony Atlas you shoot, I found wildly entertaining. And not just because of his pronunciation of many of the words. I thought he was funny and charismatic and personable, and watching him react to some of these fan videos was classic. I so enjoyed that. The Lanny Poffo's you shoot and Breaking Kayfabe. As a fan, I'm talking. As a producer, my favorite shows were the ones that made money.
Sure.
Period.
Makes sense.
Period.
Makes sense.
Cornette, Nash, Russo, all the ones that you might suspect made tens of thousands of dollars. Those were my favorite.
What was your biggest seller?
Oh God, I'd have to be making a guess now because my eyes have been off the ledgers for a while. Okay. Maybe Cornette's first guest booker, because that kind of it was his first appearance with us. He'd been on a couple of other shoot interviews before, but in the guest booker format, he shined, and it was like the rebirth of Jim Cornette. And then, so we brought him back for, he did 2 U-shoots, he did a Breaking Kayfabe, there are a handful of talent that could have done all of our formatted shows. Timeline, you had to be working near the top of a card or in the office to be able to talk about an entire year in a company. Guest booker, you had to be a booker for a major territory. U-shoot, you've got to be a lightning rod, entertaining, be able to elicit a passionate fan response for all the questions. Breaking Kayfabe, have an interesting off-screen life. Cornette checked all those boxes, so he was able to do all of our shows. So I will attribute the resurgence in his popularity to his work with kayfabe commentaries.
There you go.
Sean, being a fan first, before you got into all of this, being a fan of pro wrestling, how far into it were you before the fan itself? Now you're getting to meet, obviously, people you loved growing up or, whatever the case may be. You look up to these guys, I would think, to a degree. We all do as fans. At any point, how far into it, after meeting some of these guys and seeing the reality of some of these guys instead of just the on-screen character, did that screw you up as a fan? Because I know it's messed with me a little bit.
It was right away that it became a business. Because there was too much at stake to be starstruck. I was in the entertainment business for a long time before that, so I'd worked with famous people before, so it wasn't a starstruck thing. What it did do was, when I sat down in the interview spot, if I was able to access the fan in me, if I knew the talent I was sitting with from my days watching them, it made for a better interview. So the interview was more entertaining. I was able to find follow-up questions and talk about things beyond the research that we had on paper, because I might have remembered this person from my days as a fan. Yeah. So I guess that dimension was accentuated a bit, but there was no coming down moment for me where I was disappointed to learn somebody smelled like ass, or
That's not what I meant.
like
This guy
shattered
smells like ass.
when,
I'm not rooting for him anymore. not like that.
yeah, it's like, God damn, I was a kid, I cheered for this guy, and he smells like a fucking yak's nuts.
Yeah, that would be
But
unfortunate. Holy turnbuckle.
yeah, sure.
Hey.
So listen, the wrestling business and these guys navigating the world. There's a lot of comedy in watching these guys navigate the world. I love, one of my favorite things is when they use wrestler speak to describe real world non-wrestling situations. It's one of the more amusing things. I just co-authored Todd Gordon's autobiography, Todd is God, which will be out next summer.
How did that come to be? Because it's almost like you walked into the next question. How does that all come about with Todd?
Well, I'll get to that in 1 second. Let me just grab the story.
Sure.
Bill Alfonso, who's been a referee everywhere, and he's got the business so ingrained in his soul. If you cut him and he bled, probably a red, white, and blue rope would fall out from under his skin. He's one of these guys that uses not carny, but wrestling terms for everything. One of my favorite stories in the book, they pull up to a Waffle House or an IHOP, and if the lot was full, Alfonso's like, "Oh, they drew a good house tonight."
Fucking waffle.
I'm just so eminently amused by stuff like that. But Todd's book, we had a false start several years ago, like 2017, I think, when my first book came out, Kayfabe. I was going to write his book with him, and his sister had taken ill, and he was taking care of her, and he just couldn't do it. He wasn't in the place. But I was all jazzed up and ready to write a book. So that was the first of 6 books that I wrote that year. And then last year, we'd stayed in contact. And then last year, he was like, I'm ready. I want to do this now. And I said, all right, done deal. Let's start writing. So last November, almost a year, we started in earnest. I started recording our conversations, and I got about 50-something hours of discussion over Zoom, and we fashioned it into a book. And it's the only authorized story of the beginning of ECW, because he was there.
Does Paul Heyman kind of absorb all Todd Gordon's glory in the eyes of the public? Because it almost seems like Todd Gordon's like Abbott, and Paul's clearly Costello, and everybody knows Costello and laughs at Costello. But it seems like what would ECW be without Todd Gordon?
It wouldn't be, first of all.
Thank you. There you go.
He started it in 1992. His booker, Eddie Gilbert, his first booker, brought his friend Paul down to the TV tapings in Pennsylvania. And good guy, personal guy, really smart. Heyman, I mean, my God. And Todd put him on TV doing a manager thing, and Paul from the beginning said, "Don't pay me. I'm coming down with Eddie, and I'll do some stuff for you here, but don't worry about it. Don't pay me." And they'd formed a friendship, and really that was the foundation of the Todd and Paul story, was their friendship, and just an amazing team for that product. They were perfect for that ECW product. The stuff their minds came up with. I mean, you guys know.
Loved it.
But I am anxious for you to read the book, to see the trajectory of that relationship, and a lot of things that people have no idea about. So it'll be interesting. I'll come back with Todd, and we'll talk about.
Yeah,
Nice.
we're very excited about that
Nice.
book. We've been waiting for it. So
Love
that's going to be.
ECW. Love it.
So, Sean, we're almost out of time. I want to thank you for joining us. Before we get to the Pharaoh's final question, I always want to know this. Tell me a little bit about your wife and your children.
My children, I don't think have ever seen a wrestling match in their life. My wife may have. Well, I dragged her to a couple of events if there were people that I was going to see or meet. But we are a very close family. We're all in the arts. My oldest daughter is 17, and we're in the process of visiting colleges, and I'm auditing which nut I'm going to have to cut off and sell to pay for NYU or Pace or Fordham or anywhere that we've been. She's a musical theater singer. My wife is a musical theater teacher. She owns her own youth theater company outside of school. And I have a 10-year-old who just farts a lot, and she's fabulous. Okay. We're eminently normal. We just do really abnormal stuff for a living.
Do you guys play Pull My Finger? Since she's got so much gas, you pull her finger. That's a little roller, bro.
She's supposed to pull
your finger.
Yeah, no, she learned at the foot of the master. Okay,
let's not let this go off the rails.
I couldn't help it.
The Pharaoh's final question, unscripted. He's just going to come out of his head. But real quick, before we get to the Pharaoh's final question, I do want to reach out to ESO creative Bruce. Bruce, thank you so much for taking care of the show while I've been gone. You did a fantastic job. You're a great sponsor. You're a great friend. Kudos to you, Bruce. But on the other hand, once you took over, you got us fucking suspended. So
yeah, bad luck. I mean,
yeah,
what are you doing?
We always say karma, right? Not karma.
No, we don't say karma. That jerk down south says karma. Gets himself.
Pharaoh's final question.
And he didn't want it to go off the rails. You're dealing with me here.
There you go.
Okay, Sean, I know that you are a novelist of horror, and you have 3 books out currently regarding thriller/horrors. So you wanted something out of left field, and you didn't want something to go off the rails. Too late. Have you seen Halloween Ends?
That's the Pharaoh's final question?
It is, and he's got an answer. What a steaming pile of inept shit, right? I hope.
Hold on, though.
Uh-oh, he likes it.
If you can divorce yourself.
Oh, no. You're not going to do this, are you?
As we've all had to do, if we're fans of classic horror, Halloween, Friday the 13th, if you can divorce yourself from any kind of linear connection to Halloween of 1978 and just take it for what it was, it was an interesting commentary and a little bit of metaphor in there about the evil that lives in the hearts of people.
Of you and me.
Some burst into houses with knives, some burst into the Capitol.
Right.
And
I got you.
It's an examination of the evil around us.
Okay, that's fair.
I don't even know what you two are talking about.
Like I worked
you
for
like
the
this
goddamn
movie?
film.
I don't even know what you two are talking about.
It was 20 minutes of Michael Myers.
Guy runs around with a mask and he kills people and he can't die. It's
Leave
dumb.
Michael alone.
Anyway,
he's got you at first.
Here's my question. When is the biography on Eric Sims going to be written by you?
That's your question.
And what can we look forward to in that biography? And who do you think will write the introduction to that biography?
I'd be happy to write the introduction of the 7-page pamphlet called The Eric Sims Story. Chapter 1, Erectile Dysfunction.
Ooh.
Chapter 2, How to Fuck Your Talent Out of a Payday.
Nice. Chapter
3, How to I like Eric. I give him a lot of shit.
Yeah.
Right now, this is a must-read. Keep going.
What's in chapter 3?
What I call a necessary evil in the business. You have to go through the agents sometimes. And for all the shit that I give Eric, every booking I had from him was on time, delivered properly, and in condition to work. And all of my business with Eric has been fine. He's a curious cat. He has done a lot of strange things. My favorite is when a talent would come in, have no idea what he was about to do. And Eric would tell me proudly, I tell my talent as little as possible about what they're going to be doing on their weekend with me. Thank you for that, Eric. I now have to tell them what a U-shoot is as they're sitting there. I'm ready to show them videos with questions about the size of their bushadil over here. Right. And they have no idea what I'm about to do. But yes, the Eric Sims pamphlet. I'll work on that next after the release of the Todd Gordon book.
Should be a bestseller.
On a serious note, Sean, thank you, sir. You responded. We reached out to you with very short notice. It's an honor to learn from you. It's an honor that you're part of the wrestling business, and I'm sure for the many fans out there, you'll leave a legacy that will last a lifetime. And we only wish you the best of the luck in the future. Thank you.
Well, I want to tell you why I do your show and why I do a lot of shows, because we're all in the same fraternity right there. I'm not in the fraternity with the guys in the ring. I'm in the fraternity with you guys who had to take a negative space in the world, nothing, and make something out of it. We didn't get in the ring ourselves. We never bladed, and we don't have stories about getting blown by rats at the Holiday Inn. Maybe you do. I don't know. But what we did was we took the sport and we have to create programming out of our passion. So I'm happy to sit and talk to you guys. I'm happy to sit and talk. Most of the podcasts I do because we are all in the same group.
Well said, sir. Have a wonderful weekend, and we look forward to seeing you in the future.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you.
All right, Pharaoh, send us on our way.
You've been watching Monty and the Pharaoh. And until next week, folks, later.